Dear Thomas, this is your brother speaking, through words scribed in ink. Upon your arrival, you may find an object or two scattered around the kitchen counter besides this journal. Please ensure no fallen detritus has nestled beneath the counter. We just ended our call, and I know you're en route. This grants me sufficient time to pen this letter and conclude my unfinished business. Please comprehend, the threat of incinerating myself within these four walls was simply to hasten your departure from the city to bring you to this ancestral homestead. Your dismissal of my sanity would have been certain had I revealed the solution to the unsolved mystery of our mother's disappearance over the phone. It all comes together in the kitchen drawer. By the time you reach, I will have departed too. A personal farewell might be too much for you to bear, given the changes I've undergone over the past day. Witnessing what remains of me might invoke an unwarranted terror in you. As you're aware, Carol and the children have relocated with her new partner. The downward spiral of my life is a fact you're unacquainted with. Perhaps this descent was set in motion before her affair surfaced? She claimed I pushed her and our children away. There might be some truth there. Those who we share our lives with often foresee our downfall even before we sense a hint of it. My detachment started soon after they left. Job loss followed. Bills piled up. Social interactions dwindled. Even with you. In my isolation, the bottle became my solace. I've come to resemble our father more than I ever intended. On one of those nights drowned in alcohol, Carol stormed in, insisting I sign the divorce papers. The encounter didn't go smoothly, courtesy of the bottle's influence. Seeking escape, I ended up here. This house, it seems, has been untouched since we were whisked away to the boys' home. It's disheartening to think of this house deprived of a chance to shelter a joyful family. Despite our gloomy childhood, I harbored a vision of our home reflecting the cleanliness maintained by our mother. My heart sank when I discovered the deteriorated condition of the place 2 days ago. Nature's wrath and the test of time had ravaged the wooden framework and roof. The neighborhood mirrored the dilapidation, as if our house's decay infected it. Indoors, the conditions were no better. Absence of electricity and water, pervading filth, the presence of mold, and an all-encompassing stench of neglect. The rotted wooden floors, the chipped paint, and peeling wallpapers formed a grotesque image. My intoxicated state didn't hinder the clarity of my purpose. I navigated to the kitchen amidst rat droppings and cobwebs, and the rusted steel handle of the kitchen drawer caught my attention. Opening it was an unexpected shock. Pristine, empty, untouched by time. Examine it for yourself, Thomas, but heed my warning. Do not place anything inside the drawer. Not yet. Upon inspecting the drawer, I discovered it refused to be pulled out along its tracks. I probed the inside of the cabinet, all smooth and robust. Even the metal wheels and slides appeared shiny and unaffected. Thus, it makes little sense that the drawer, being immovable, should remain so preserved after decades of disuse. However, as you may remember, this drawer has a peculiar past. Our mother always found the cabinet too large to store significant documents. Yet, it became a depository for various items for our parents. And it was our mother who often claimed that the drawer devoured its contents. Bills, letters, writing utensils. Every time our father raged about a misplaced bill or crucial document. Mother was certain she had placed it in the drawer, but it would vanish. Father would respond with violence. She would later console us that the drawer was responsible for the lost items for which she was punished. We humored her, though it was heartbreaking to see her endure our father's wrath, feeling undermined by her own children. I implore you to brace yourself, dear brother. This revelation is something you never permitted me to verbalize in person. yet it must be disclosed. Even Carol or the police who questioned us that night are oblivious to it. On the dreadful night when our father ended our mother's life, I witnessed the drawer devour something. Father and his companion bottle had been inseparable all day when a visitor delivered an envelope to our farmhouse. You and Mother were upstairs at the time. The man left and Father, with me as an unnoticed spectator, eagerly opened the envelope. Given our constant struggle with poverty, the sight of the wads of $100 bills filled both of us with awe. That day marked my first encounter with a double Benjamin and the rare sight of our father's genuine smile. His excitement was palpable as he counted the $5,000 aloud. I must emphasize, this wasn't a bonding moment between us. I was simply a hidden observer, blending into the kitchen corner, engrossed in my homework. Unaware of my presence, he carefully placed the cash back in the envelope and stored it in the kitchen drawer. He then resumed his rendezvous with the bottle and the house phone in the living room. Shortly after, Mother descended the stairs and began doing the dishes. I swear upon my life, brother, she never once opened that drawer. But when Father ended his phone call and returned to the kitchen, the drawer was the first thing he checked. His expression painted a clear picture. The fury ignited in him like a triggered landmine. He ransacked the drawer, hurling its contents everywhere until it was utterly empty. He accused her of thieving his money, and she stood there baffled by his baseless allegations, but his fury was blind to her innocence. Eventually, his attention turned to me. I endured my share of blows as I vehemently denied any involvement in the theft of his money. He banished me to my room, where I remained, gripped by fear while our mother fought for her life. Your bravery that night, sneaking out through your bedroom window, seeking help from the neighbors and calling the police, has always been an inspiration to me. It's a relief that Father was apprehended, his hands literally stained with blood. The kitchen was a gruesome scene, splattered with blood from his violent act, except for one place, the inside of the drawer. The authorities speculated that he might have used a plastic bag within the drawer to conceal the evidence. However, no trace of her remains was ever discovered. Every fragment of her had vanished. The tragic aftermath was marked only by a lingering stain, a cruel irony considering her aversion to an untidy kitchen. She would have been appalled at the idea of her existence being reduced to a mere stain of blood. Father was inebriated during his confession, but his admission of murdering his wife in a fit of rage held up in court. Despite the compelling blood evidence, he never confessed to dismembering her. Her blood-soaked clothes were found strewn across the kitchen floor. Whenever questioned about the disposal of her body, from his initial confession to his last breath in a prison hospital, he invariably responded with the same cryptic statement: "You wouldn't believe me if I told you. Yesterday, I awoke on the decayed kitchen floor. Having succumbed to intoxication during my first night back in this house after 26 years, I immediately procured another bottle. Echoing our father's vice, I returned to the crime scene with my bottled companion and we poured out our souls. Why didn't I intervene to save Mother? Did Father indeed do what I suspect with her remains? Can the drawer truly devour its contents? Bills, letters, pens and pencils, skin, bones, organs, hair." Besieged by these tormenting questions, my bottled companion and I embarked on an experiment. I collected a pair of scissors I found in the house, a stone from the yard, and my car's registration from the vehicle, and deposited all three items in the drawer. I closed it for a fleeting second before hastily reopening it. Paper, scissors, no stone. Baffled, I scrutinized the drawer. Then I closed and reopened the drawer again. Scissors, no paper. A third closure and reopening yielded empty. Though it may sound insensitive given the nature of the subject, the confirmation of our mother's theory filled me with a strange sense of exhilaration. The devouring nature of the drawer was indeed real, satiating itself with each opening and closing. When multiple items were placed inside, something would inevitably vanish. But when only a single item resided within, it would be entirely consumed. This horrifying realization sheds light on why the police could never uncover our mother's remains. Our father fed her, part by part, to that insatiable drawer. It's a disturbing conjecture, but I believe that his initial act of placing a body part inside the drawer was a perverse form of revenge. As he witnessed the disappearance of each piece, he must have been driven by disbelief to test the drawer once more. Recognizing its insatiable appetite, he seized upon it as an opportunity to conceal the evidence of his heinous crime. And so, our mother became nothing more than mere stuffing. Label it as supernatural or divine. The drawer can be christened as per your preference, but it is undeniably alive. The magnitude of this astonishing revelation ignited a bizarre thrill within me, and I found myself mirroring Father's smile when he had discovered the cache. However, like him, my jubilation was fleeting, vanishing with the banging on the front door and Carol's frantic shouts. Keep in mind, dear brother, I had been drinking all day, and my relationship with Carol, following Father's death from liver cancer, was seething with resentment. When she traced me to our childhood home and stormed inside, I felt cornered under siege. She burst into the kitchen, brandishing the divorce papers, and demanded my signature. At that moment, I confess a wave of alcohol-induced fury washed over me. My instinct was to stuff the papers into the drawer, close it, and make room for more stuffing. Seething, I approached her. Then, something in the corner of the room caught my eye. The sunlight slicing through the grimy window illuminated it. A bloodstain on the countertop. A mark of mother. I embraced Carol, signed the divorce papers, and asked her to convey my love to the children. She departed, puzzled but satisfied. I never resorted to violence, and I never will. I guess I'm not like Father after all. That realization sparked another. I didn't need to drown my sorrows in alcohol like Father did. Filled with a newfound resolve, I snatched the bottle and directed it toward the drawer. I thrust the bottle inside and slammed it shut. My drunken state caused me to forget that 4 of my fingers were still in the drawer. I felt a brief touch, nothing more. I reopened it. The drawer had consumed 1 of my fingers. The bottle remained in place. I still had 3 of my 4 fingers, but the middle one was conspicuously absent. There was no pain. The skin over the stump was smooth, as if my finger had been professionally amputated and the wound had since healed. The shock of this didn't cause panic. Instead, it provoked anger. I wanted my finger back, and in my drunken stupor, I acted recklessly. I removed the bottle and inserted my whole hand into the drawer, shutting it with the desperate hope of reopening it to find my finger reattached. A slight tap at the base of my thumb suggested that the drawer interpreted my palm, thumb, and remaining 3 fingers as one single entity. In an instant, my entire hand was gone at the wrist. I stared in disbelief at the part of my forearm. There was still no pain, but shock was undoubtedly setting in as I thrust my forearm into the drawer and demanded my hand be restored. Slurred and unsteady, I forced the drawer shut on my arm. Then I rose to my feet. Yes, the drawer had devoured my arm. I used my remaining hand to probe the stump at my shoulder. Where my arm had once been, I remember laughing in a delirious fashion, feeling dizzy, and then succumbing to unconsciousness once again on the kitchen floor. Upon waking, I experienced a strange sensation associated with my absent limb. I could feel my fingers, each one clearly connected to my hand, which felt as if it were part of my arm. This wasn't the phantom sensation amputees often experience. I could actually feel my detached arm, whole and functional. I could manipulate my absent fingers, snap them together, even feel my missing hand moving across an unfamiliar surface. Then, I bent my invisible arm at the elbow, feeling the abrupt end at the armpit. The drawer devours whatever you feed it, even if it's alive. My revelation led me to conclude that the drawer is indifferent to the state of the offerings. Dead or alive, whole or in parts, whatever it consumes is reconstituted on the other side, wherever that may be. This leads to further questions. Was Mother reassembled piece by piece? If so, could she have been revived? These are the questions I aim to answer. First, I retrieved this notebook and pen from my car and situated myself on the kitchen countertop. I dialed your number on my cell phone, wrote all of this down, and then turned off my phone. You should be on your way, believing I'm about to set fire to our childhood home, with me inside. You've always been the heroic one. Now, it's my turn to embark on my journey. Piece by piece. After all, part of me is already there, and it's time the rest of me caught up. I positioned one foot inside the drawer and shut it. A mild tap followed. And then I raised my leg to find it severed at the ankle. I wiggled my absent toes, feeling them move in some distant place, waiting for the rest of me. It has been a daunting task. But I managed to negotiate the logistics of feeding the drawer my body. After consuming my other foot, I inserted my legs one at a time. Then, I gradually slid my body into the drawer up to my navel. I used my remaining hand to pull the drawer shut, causing a sensation in my lower body before I began to fall. Luckily, I caught the edge of the sink with my hand, pulling myself back onto the counter. I am half a man now, from navel to head with a single arm left to finish this letter and lower myself into the drawer. Then I will enclose myself inside and shut the drawer, reuniting with the rest of me. Please check the floor for any stray fingers I may lose in the process, and if you find any, kindly feed them to the drawer, one at a time. I don't want to be incomplete wherever I'm going. If I'm right and Mother is there, I'll tell her you send your love. Maybe in time, you'll decide to join us. Sincerely, Arthur. Dear Arthur, thank you for your letter. I'm sorry that your final attempt didn't turn out as you had hoped. When I walked into the kitchen, your hand was crawling around on the floor. I screamed and stomped on your hand several times. I apologize for that. I wonder wherever you are, if it hurt you badly. Were you consciously controlling your hand when it grabbed my shoe, or was it acting on some instinctual survival mode? Regardless, I threw your strange animated hand in the drawer. Of all places, it's almost as if the drawer compels us to feed it, right? Perhaps it does hold some sway over this place. And us. After I closed the drawer, I found your notebook on the counter. Once I read it, I gathered the courage to open the drawer again. I hope your hand found you in good health, my brother, and that you are now complete. Since you trusted me with your story, let me share a secret. I've held on to all these years. About the heroics you mentioned when I ran to the neighbors. I didn't go out my window. I escaped through the back door. But before that, I crept to the kitchen doorway and saw Dad stuffing Mom into the drawer, piece by piece. That's why I've never been able to discuss that day. I regret that I couldn't even share it with you. For the rest of my life, I've been haunted by nightmares in which I see Mom in some odd place, pieced back together. She is whole but not alive, reaching out for me. I would wake up screaming. I still do. And I pray that if you have found Mom whole, she is in the state you hoped for and not the monstrosity that haunts me. Last night, I had another nightmare. Mom was there in that strange place. But for the first time, you were standing next to her on twisted legs. Both of you were whole, yet in pieces. Not alive, but still reaching for me. I apologize for sharing such a grim vision, but I hope it illustrates why I dare not attempt to join you. Once this notebook is fed to the drawer, I intend to burn this house. Call it mystical. Call it magical. I don't care what you call this living monstrosity, because this letter is the last thing it will ever consume. I hope the drawer chokes on it. Goodbye, brother. And know this, I love you too, Thomas.
Thank you for listening to this story till the end. We are still experimenting with this format, so your feedback is highly appreciated. Please give us your feedback by liking or disliking the content. And even better, share your thoughts in the comments, letting us know what you liked and what didn't quite resonate with you. Also, tell us what you would like to hear in the next scary story. You can vote for the comment that suggests an idea you liked the most. We write scary stories based on your requests.